Yeah, welcome back to KM6LYW Radio, the show about amateur radio or ham radio, reimagining radio in the information age. Hey, today is kind of ham radio related. It's definitely radio related. We are going to talk about Mesh Core, the possible successor to Meshtastic. This is for secure instant messaging on the 33 centimeter band. Is this a revolutionary upgrade from Meshtastic or evolutionary? Let's find out more about Mesh Core this time on KM6LYW Radio. Yeah. There it is. All right, welcome back. Free bumper music. I still need new jingles, guys. They got to be short, all guitar, and recognizable. So I don't think I can talk a lot about Mesh Core without briefly going over Meshtastic really quick. So Meshtastic, in a nutshell, uses these really inexpensive devices. This is like 30 bucks. And you pair them with your phone over Bluetooth. And there's a little app here that lets you do messaging. And so you can message anyone else who has a phone in one of these devices. What's interesting about this is that there's no internet, there's no cellular signals. These all operate on the 33 centimeter band. Encryption is allowed. These are extremely low power. But what's interesting about Meshtastic is they form a peer network. So all of these things become aware of each other, and they form this dynamic ad hoc network. These little nodes are not only endpoints for secure messaging, but they repeat traffic that they hear. So I don't have to be in direct range of a buddy I'm having an SMS chat with, so long as there's enough of these nodes between me and him. So that's how Meshtastic works. In the big picture, this has been around for a few years. Now, this works great in rural areas. You don't need any infrastructure. If everyone has one of these stuck to the back of their phone, in fact, I put Velcro on there. It just works. Like if you're camping or at the lake, Meshtastic's fantastic. Get that right. So what we discovered is like in busy areas, like in big cities in the Bay Area, this flood routing approach is what they call it. It kind of breaks down. The channel saturates. This is at 900 megahertz. A packet lasts maybe half a second. If we're doing these flood routing and we got hundreds of these things repeating the same packet, the channel saturates and it kind of falls apart. So Liam Cottle, the genius behind Meshtastic, kind of came up with a new version of Mesh radio, and it's called Mesh Core. This has a little bit more intelligent design in that we have different roles for these things now. It's not purely a peer network. We have a router role and a companion role, and we don't do broadcasts anywhere near as often as we used to with Meshtastic. You might think of Meshtastic as APRS. You just kind of send and pray, whereas Mesh Core is a little more like AX.25 or a real network, and where we have actual routers and you can route packets. You might think of Mesh Core as more like a lightsaber, not as random and clumsy as a blaster. Anyways, that's the background on Meshtastic and the revolutionary or evolutionary upgrade to Mesh Core. So the takeaway URL here is meshcore.co.uk. Yeah, this is a UK thing, and it supports all of these little LoRa devices. I use these Heltec devices, but there's other ones that have integrated messaging and keyboard. You can get, and these are cheap. This is like $30. In fact, you could buy a pair. I think you can get a pair for 30. I don't know. These Heltec receivers are very cheap. They're not very power efficient, but it really helps you get into this hobby. In fact, get a pair of them. That way you have a companion node for your phone, and then you can put a repeater on the roof, and all you need is like a USB power source, and these will run forever. They also have a battery adapter on a lot of them. So these are just some of the devices. Once you get a device, you go to flasher.meshcore.co.uk, and you can see all of the different devices here that you can flash. And they got clever SVG images of them. This is that LilyGo T-Deck, pretty darn cool. There's the Heltec devices. The Heltec V3 is the one we have right here. And when you go to flash it, you just click on your device, and then you come up with the role that you want this thing to be. It can be a companion over Bluetooth, or a companion over USB if you want to hardwire it, or you can be a repeater role. This is where it just repeats packets, and it's part of the repeater network. Or you can be a room server. This is kind of like your IRC chat rooms. You can make a node that acts like an IRC IRC server. So these are the four roles of a Mesh Core network. So I've got a companion device right here, and on the top of the hill where I've got my AX.25 node and WinLink antenna, that's this massive antenna. I've also got a little box right here that's really hard to see. Here it is zoomed up. But we have a Heltec V3 jammed inside this little waterproof box and just a stock antenna. And there is a battery in here, but I got rid of it as it wasn't necessary because I've already got the repeater at 12-volt powers with USB outlets there. So all as it is just tiny little Heltec V3 stuck to a pole with a little antenna. Now I have ordered a new rack antenna. They make an antenna that's about 30 inches long. It has an end connector on it. I'll see if I can find the URL for you. But it's supposed to be much higher gain because remember, these LoRa devices, they stand for long range LoRa, and they're not long range. It's only, in fact, I don't even think they're measured in watts. They're measured in dBm. So I think this is 10% of 1 watt. I think the range on this with the simple antenna, I've got 9 to 10 miles in extremely low noise environment, which you can see here in the mountains is extremely low noise. So that's up on a mountain. And that's with to another high gain system repeater. So yeah, 10 miles is really pushing it. But if you get enough of these things together, it's no problem at all because they will route through each other in mesh core. Not flood route, but actually route to the people you're talking to. So that is my mesh core device. And back to the flasher here. Let's say I want to make a companion over Bluetooth. I click on that. I can say, erase device. That's if you want to initialize it. Upload the firmware to your device. You can hit flash. And I think it will actually prompt me for the device that's connected to my PC or my web browser. That's amazing. You don't need any software to flash these. All you need is a web browser. That still blows my mind that your web browser can actually flash these devices. Now, I'm not going to flash this one because I've already got Mesh Core on here. I've already got it configured, and it's paired to my phone using the Meshtastic app, which I have an example of right here. This is an Android app for Mesh Core. I'm going to use Mesh Core and Meshtastic. I'm going to screw that up constantly. So if I say Meshtastic, I mean Mesh Core from here on out. Okay, guys. So this is the instant messaging interface. We've got contacts, channels. Those are like the chat rooms, and a map of nodes. So there's a public chat room that everyone has access to. This is encrypted, but everyone knows the private key, so it's not that big of a deal. So when I don't know, you can watch it. It might light up in a second. Say, hey, I'm sending a message to public. Hit that, and I don't know if you can see this light up. Well, I gotta hit send first. Okay, it sent the message, and you'll see it says heard 1 repeat down here, and that's because my repeater up on the hill heard this. I don't know if anyone else heard it, but I know I at least got 1 repeat. We can see on the scope here, this big, huge, loud one was this guy transmitting that message, and then the lesser signal up here was the repeater, the cool node repeater up on the hill that we just showed you. So I can not only talk on the public channel, but I can talk to individuals. And again, this is completely encrypted using, I think it's OpenSSL public key cryptography. And the reason we can do encryption is because this is on a 33 centimeter band, which is for science, industry, and medical, I think. They just have a really low power requirement to be on that band, but there's really no limit to the type of antenna. You can have a removable antenna on these LoRa radios, so you can actually get some pretty good range with some high gain antennas. And of course, the repeaters would have those cool antennas, but these companion nodes can be pretty small. So that's a channel. I can add people there. These are my contacts. These are things that I've heard recently. This is the cool repeater. I can get telemetry from it, all of its information. The interesting thing here is the 44 in the public key. Remember that, because that's kind of how we identify repeaters. So when we establish routes to other nodes, I would say go through repeater 44. I think that's hex. Yeah, so repeater 44. And then, so when I send a message to someone and I can specify the hops, right? That's the difference between Meshtastic and Mesh Core, is I can specify the route to the packet to where I want it to go. The out path here is where this one says hops away. It says it's direct. Obviously, it's maybe 100 yards from here. And the out path, this is where I can actually specify a path. So if I wanted to get to someone, I can say go through node 44, then go through node 05, which I happen to know is the Auburn Folsom repeater, right? And then that's how I can set that path. So that's how I can get to that guy. So that's pretty cool. Let me get rid of known repeaters. So that's how I can set my path. Let's go back to the cool node. There's a thing where we can actually manage nodes. You have to pay for the app to get through this 10-second thing here. Or, of course, if you're recording, you just hit pause. So we can actually remotely manage the node over the actual channel here. And the channel is 909.875 in this case. So you can use a bunch of channels in the 33 centimeter band. But in the Sierra Nevada foothills here, we're actually using 909.875. I can request status. And this is my node requesting the status of the repeater. So here's all the information, the uptime about that repeater. I can go over to settings and I can say load this information. And I get it back. It says it's on channel frequency 909.875. The bandwidth you can change. This is all configurable. The spreading factor and the coding rate. So this actually has forward error correction too, right? So if you increase the coding rate, yeah, the packets are longer, but you'll get a better decode because there's Reed-Solomon cyclic redundancy checks in there. So you don't need to know all that information. But suffice to say that the radio information is totally configurable. And you can actually choose a preset for your area. So if you want to just go with the United States and Canada and get on board with all the defaults, you can do that here. And it'll set your radio up for your region. So that's pretty cool. And we can do, instead of doing pings, we actually have something called adverts. And these things will advert at most, or as most frequently, at 1 hour, because we really don't want to jam the channel. Again, another difference between Mesh Core and Meshtastic. Now I can send an advertisement, and it says advert sent. That system just announced itself. You can see it on the SDR here. And to anybody in range will listen. And now if anyone heard that, it would show up in their neighbor list. In fact, I can request a neighbor list here. Yeah, it's empty right now. There's repeater settings. So this is how we configure a repeater node, and there's all kinds of information here. But let's go back to our node here. We can send our own beacon here. I can do a flood route, or I can just do a 0-hop advert. This guy just advertised himself on the network, and so the cool repeater would have heard him just fine. Other things we've got here in tools, we can do like a trace path. These are some of the nodes that are near me. So I'm over here, and this is my companion node, the K. And then if I want to do a trace path, like maybe I want to get to Sugar Pine, I can set like a route. This is where we do the routing table. It's pretty cool. I can send it to from here to the cool node, then I want to go to Auburn Folsom, and then I want to go to Bel Air, then I want to go back again, and then to the cool node. Okay, you got it? That's 4 paths, and I can go, I can go hundreds of miles so long as I know where all of these are. I can run the trace. And I just requested the trace. So now the repeater is actually attempting to do these packets. I don't think it's going to work today. I don't think I'm in range. We're still building this network. But I was shocked when these actually showed up here. It's unreliable. What we need is more nodes. And I definitely need that better antenna. So it did time out. So yeah, that trace didn't exactly work. But honestly, I didn't expect it to. But that's a cool feature of these little radios. You can see my own map here. This is just where I can see what's around me. I can zoom in. This is my node here. This is your companion radio position. This is the cool repeater. We just looked at that and we managed it. So that's all the information here. And, I wish I had like a buddy here that I could talk to, but we're still building this network. It's nowhere near as fleshed out as Meshtastic just yet, but it is growing, and there's little communities growing around specific frequencies for Mesh Core. So there is a web-based application too. It looks and works just like the Android thing that we just went over. I can't get this to work under any circumstance. It'll use Bluetooth. It'll use serial, evidently. I enabled web Bluetooth API, experimental web platform features. I just couldn't get it to work, but this would be really cool if we can get the web app to work. Hey, as far as the hardware goes, I don't have this yet. I wish I did. I was kind of waiting to make this video until I got this antenna. This is a 33-inch antenna for the 915 or 33 centimeter band. It has an end connector on it, so I need to do some adapters. But this is over 5 dBi gain here, and this is what we're using here in the Sierra Nevada foothills, and which I will have soon, which should easily get me that 9 to 10 miles to the next repeater, and I won't be as isolated as I am today. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me with Mesh Core. I know it's Meshtastic versus Mesh Core. It's just another thing for ham radio operators to argue over. I say run both. This thing is so cheap, you can run them on different frequencies, put both on the same pole. I think Mesh Core is good for populated areas. I think Meshtastic is good for less populated areas. It's essentially secure messaging using the 33 centimeter band. It works in the United States and Europe. It's legal in all of those jurisdictions. So pretty cool. Secure messaging, another thing to have in your pocket in addition to ham radio, because encryption isn't allowed on ham radio, but it is allowed on this science, medical, and industrial band. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. This has been a lot of fun. I will probably do an update video once I get some friends here, once I have more than one walkie-talkie, and we'll show this thing really in action. Hey, patrons, thanks for the help. Patreon.com/KM6LYW. You guys have not only make this channel advert-free. Speaking of adverts, that's a Mesh Core term. We don't do adverts on this channel. I don't support the otherwise socially reprehensible companies that advertise on this platform. Anyway, so if you are a patron, you get access to the DigiPi SD card image. This is an SD card you put in a Raspberry Pi. It kind of turns your amateur radio into a website. It's pretty cool. And then you can operate your amateur radio in all the data modes you can think of just using your phone. It has a web interface. So we're talking about APRS, FT8, AX.25, WinLink, all of those services. You take this SD card image, you put it in a Raspberry Pi, plug it into your radio, and then you access it all with a web browser over Wi-Fi. Great for summits on the air, right? Extremely low power, really simple. It has a web management interface. You don't need to be a Linux expert. This isn't a half-baked Raspberry Pi project. These are all the modes it does, and this is just using a phone. You can turn these modes on or off here, and maybe you want to be an APRS digipeater, great. Or maybe you want to do APRS web chat, so you can actually send messages to other radios, or even SMS or email. All of this, DigiPi does all of this. Comes in a big format, a little format. It has a cool little screen to show you what's really going on. I like to sit out on the back deck there, and with my tablet, and I can operate FT8 with my DigiPi plugged into, what is that, a Yaesu 991. And I can do data modes all day. In fact, I could be in the easy chair doing this as well. Hey, I mentioned the APRS web chat. So, you know, I detested sending APRS messages on my little HT. It's just awful on that 10 key. But with DigiPi, you get a full web browser interface, and you can send SMS messages just like you are on your phone. In fact, not just like you're on your phone. You are on your phone because you're using DigiPi with a web browser. There's a lot of cool hardware that has been developed in support of the DigiPi software. Usually it's the other way around. So yeah, Masters Communications, great hardware right here. It allows you to plug in your Raspberry Pi or your DigiPi into your dual band rig. So lots of cool options there. A tracker, we got email, FT8 actually displaying in your web browser on your phone. It's good for the easy chair. It's good for the summits, FL Digi, all of that. Hey guys, the Patreon support has been overwhelming. You can see I'm killing time here trying to get all this to scroll by. There's not enough time to display all of the cool patrons of the channel. So guys, thanks again. Hey, my name is Craig, amateur radio call sign KM6LYW. I'm in California, and I'm clear.